What up, guys? John here. I've been a busy boy the past week, and I've made 24 sets of handles. Got some Emerson Dragon scales, Emerson regulars. This is for the CQC7 regular size, and a whole boatload of Manix CQC7s, including a bunch of dragons. Now, these are all sold. So today's anodizing day. Got to make them all pretty colors, so I can ship them off to their soon-to-be very happy customers. It's funny, it's much less impressive when I put them all together like this. I mean, it's hardly longer than my knife. 24 sets. Alright, I just decided I'm going to do this in 2 batches. Today I'm going to do this many, 12 pairs. And then in 2 days, I'll do the rest of these and these ones, another 12 pairs. Just keeps my workload down. I've only got about 6 hours to work with here, even just under 6 hours. So to do 24 pairs is insane. It's just not going to work. So I'll do 12 today. And the other thing is a lot of these ones are going to be black, and this one's going to be a bit of blue. And my black and blue dyes need some work. I need to boil them for about an hour. Clean them up again, strain them, and that will, like the black isn't turning out full black, it's turning out kind of dark blue. So I gotta tweak it, and I don't have time to boil it for an hour today. So I'll stick with these. That's a lot of red and green and orange colors. And got titanium racking wires here. These are already pre-bent into a pair. That way each side gets the exact same color. So I've only got 5 made from the last batch, so I'm going to make 7 more. I've got these 18-inch long pieces of titanium rod that I got off a guy on eBay, and time to bend them up. Okie dokie, so I got 12 pairs of handles all racked up as pairs, which is good so that they dye exactly the same color. I really love using this titanium wire as opposed to using aluminum wire, because you can reuse the titanium over and over and over again. So the time spent making one rack, is well spent, because now you can reuse it over. Whereas the aluminum ones are disposable, so you have to throw them away every time. So I spent about an hour racking all these up and making the new racks. But next time it'll be, 10, 15 minutes maybe, just attaching the rack to each scale. So titanium, awesome, way to go. And I have my, in here, heated degreaser at 200 degrees, pretty much, almost boiling. Hot, hot, hot. And I dip the parts in there for a few seconds, and they get nice and clean. Over here is my acid tank, sulfuric acid, that I'm getting ready for the anodizing. These are my racking bars. You see they're made of aluminum, and I've been using them for, I don't know, maybe a year. And they're getting very, very corroded, which is not so good for electrical continuity. Stainless steel would be a much better material. It'll still corrode over time. Titanium would be the ultimate material, and maybe one day I'll invest in some titanium racks. But at least I have stainless steel screws so that they don't really rust out too bad. But I'm sure stainless bars would work just fine and be a little bit cheaper than tie. So, and I got temperature at 64. Anything higher than 65 I'm pretty happy with, so that's fine. Let's get the lid off. And that big plate inside is an aluminum cathode plate. So that provides the negative charge, and then the bars provide the positive charge. Alright, drop the parts into the heated degreaser. 5, 10, 15 seconds, whatever, until they start bubbling. I'll show you a close-up of that in a second. And then pull them out, spray them off. So I can see this one's bubbling away. and then into my just distilled water rinse. See, they're starting to bubble away. If you leave it in here for a long time, it will etch the aluminum. So if you have a super polished part, 5-10 seconds is all you really want to do. Otherwise, the polish will go dull. It'll still be super smooth, but it won't be deep and lustrous. And the goal, you spray it off with clean distilled water. The goal is you don't want to see any drops of water on here. Because if the water is beating up, that means it's still oily. So you can see that the parts are completely wet with water. No water drops, no beads of water anywhere, which is great. Just completely saturated with water. And I lost it. That's what I got this guy for. There it is. Now this part was probably in there for, I don't know, almost a minute. And like I said, since they're not polished parts, it's fine. It's still very shiny. So here's all my parts cleaned up and rinsed off. And in order to figure out how many amps I need to set my power supply to, go over to my computer here, and I've figured out that all the parts combined have a surface area of 258 square inches. I want a thickness of 1 mil, and I want 6 amps per square foot current density. So it tells me, this is a 720 rule calculator, you can Google that if you need to. Set the current to 10.7 amps for 2 hours. And the voltage will be automatically set to around 15. So I got my Excel spreadsheet here. 12 handles, CQC7 Manix, blah 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 blah. And this lets me keep track of the temperature of my bath, the amps and the volts at various increments of time, just for future debugging in case anything goes wrong and I need to know why. So I have every single thing I've ever anodized in this spreadsheet. A lot of it with the results. You know, oh, looked good, looked suck, you know, sucky, and why and all that stuff. So it's good to keep notes. Now real quick, we're going to put all that stuff in the acid. I'm going to wear my acid safe rubber gloves. These aren't regular dishwashing gloves. They're specifically hydrochloric or sulfuric acid safe. I've gotten that stuff on my skin and you don't really feel it, but I would definitely not prefer to have it on my skin. So, you know, I've got just a drop or whatever and you don't feel it, but don't touch it. So I just turned the power supply on. You can see the bubbles starting to form. Lots of black crud floating around, which is basically smut coming off that aluminum sheet on the bottom. Not a big deal, although I guess it could kind of mess up my parts, but I haven't had it mess up really anything yet. And you see this air nozzle. It goes to 2 pipes underneath the plate, and I'm going to turn it on to just like 2 psi and hook my air compressor up to it, obviously, and just let it bubble away. Not only does that keep all that crap floating around and moving and away from my parts, all this haze and whiteness you see is bubbles coming off the parts, and the bubbles from air compressor will help knock those bubbles off the parts. So I'm going to plug that in right now and watch her go. Man, that is a lot of crap. I should filter that. So 10.5 amps, the goal is 10.7. There. And the computer said 15 volts, you're showing me 24, I don't know why, and I don't really care. Air compressor's on, bubbling away. Now all those little white bubbles you see, not the big ones, but the little tiny ones, those are hydrogen gas coming off the parts as they're being anodized. Now you don't really want to breathe that stuff. It doesn't smell like anything, but if you breathe it in, you take a lungful, it kind of makes you cough a little bit. I don't think it's deadly, but it can displace the oxygen, and it's not something you want to have in your lungs really. So this little case right here is a household range fume hood. So I'm going to turn that on. And basically, I just take this hose, throw it out the door. Just like that. Foggy today. Super foggy. Then I just close the door and block it like that. In 10 minutes, this thing's already raised 4 degrees because I've got it at a pretty high amperage. So I'm going to have to put some frozen water bottles in there and keep this temperature below 70. So I'm going to do it now just to kind of preempt the temperature rise, because all this voltage and amperage getting stuffed into that bath is shedding off some heat. So I'll put some water bottles in there. They just float on top and they do a really good job of keeping the temperature down. Eventually in the far future I'll buy a chiller, like $500, but it should keep it really low. So it's been 2 hours, 16 minutes. I let the temperature get up to 72, which is barely acceptable. Because I went a bit over on time. I was supposed to go for 2 hours. I went through 4 water bottles. These ones are totally melted now. But this batch is done. So I got to take them out, rinse them off really good with the squirt bottle, rinse them off really good in the water, and then we'll go to dye. So coming out of the acid bath here, you need to be absolutely as diligent as you can about getting all the acid off. So I've got my distilled water spray. You got to get into all the holes everywhere, because this will totally mess up your dye. And you'll end up with nasty drips. And it'll just look terrible. So after a good spray off, I put it down in my distilled water tank here and give it a good swish. Do this for every single one of them. And it's all these little tips and tricks that I've learned over the past year of anodizing to eliminate all the problems. I mean, anodizing is a total science. And if you get it right every time, perfect results. If you forget something, you're going to be screwed. So I'm consulting my list here. This is today's job. So I can sort out, okay, CQC Dragon red, 2 CQCs red, 2 Dragons, Manix Dragons red, and 2 regular Manixes red. So I can sort of put those aside and do the reds first, because they like a good 10 to 20 minute dunk in my red dye right here. So I'm going to pull those ones out, make sure they're nice and rinsed off, and then hang them in there for 20 minutes. Now I've got 7 parts, 7 pairs hanging in the red. These have been in for maybe about a minute, and you can see they're already going pink. So like I said, since this is a cold dye, I'm going to leave them in for a good 20 minutes, let them get every ounce of red that they can. Otherwise, they're pink. I've cut them off sometimes at 8 minutes, and they look like red in the dark here, inside light, but then when all's said and done, they're pink, and that sucks. So it's better to overdo it, since it can only get so red. Next up, I'm doing two Manix Dragon Scales in orange. Here's my orange dye. I give it a good stir, and this one's kind of like the red. Since it's cold, it likes a good long 20 minutes at least. So I'm just going to put those in. I'm not even going to time it. I'm just going to leave it in for a long time. And let her go. So this is a very slow color. Well, not that slow. It's yellow already. It better be orange. No, I'm sure it is. Next up, I'm doing a set of CQC7 scales in, he wants a graphite color. So I've got my gray dye right here, give it a good stir. This is a pretty quick dye, so I gotta be careful not to overdo it, otherwise the parts will be almost black. So I am gonna time this one, and maybe I'll just do it by hand for now. So start the timer, and notice I'm also swishing the parts around. I should have done that for the other ones, I forgot. So 10 seconds, super light gray. That's a good start. Keep going. While I'm doing that, I'll switch these orange ones around. Just to make sure there's no air bubbles or anything stuck in the holes, because that'll look stupid. So we got coming up on 30 seconds. 30 seconds. That's a cool gray. I think that'll about do it. Settled on 5 minutes. Took longer than I thought it would. I've had this kind of result in 10 seconds before, but maybe that's when it was hot. I can't remember. But yeah, that's pretty sweet graphite gray. Wouldn't want to go too much darker than that. Love it. Last ones I have to dye are 2 sets of Manix scales. Doing these toxic green. And to do that, I do my secret formula. 1 minute yellow, 5 minutes green, cold. Now cold changes depending on the season. I mean, it's almost Christmas now and it's freezing outside, but it's not quite that cold in here. So I'm going to time this pretty accurately. Check it, adjust as necessary. So because of the temperature change, I mean that formula isn't totally accurate all the time. But we'll see how that works. 1 minute. Pull them out. Oh, they're yellow all right. See, this one's got a good booger on it. Believe it or not, this dye actually gets moldy. All of them do. So you get these, I call them boogers, I don't know what they're really called, but get these strings of crap. Hair and stuff as well. Okay, that's a light yellow. I'm going to go for another 20 seconds or so. Maybe 30 seconds, just, I like a bit brighter yellow. Alright, here we go. It's about 1:30. I don't know if you can tell, but it's definitely brighter yellow. You probably can tell. So I'm going to spray them off. For most colors I would dip in my tank of rinse water, but for yellow and green I don't really mind if they mix a little bit. And then we'll go into the green, swish swish, start my timer. 5 minutes should do it there. I'm going to check it after 3 or so just to make sure it's doing good. We're going on about 3 minutes 30 seconds here. They look pretty awesome if I do say so myself. I'll go a little bit darker. So we're at 340 right now. Probably bring it up to 5 minutes, it'll be good. 5 minutes. Pull them out. Oh yeah. That's the stuff right there. rinse them off. Get the bottom too. And then, can you see that? There. Go over here. Take them off the rod. This is my rinse water tank. Get it nice and rinsed. Make sure I like the color. Yeah, it looks great. Oops. Awesome. And then we go over here. This is my heated tank again. And this is my sealant. Sealer, whatever. Super hot. So I heat this up to boiling. Heat this up to boiling. Drop the parts in for about 15-20 minutes. Longer is okay, so sometimes I just do them early and forget about them. And then that closes up all the pores of the anodizing and seals in that color really good. So I got my gray part in there. I got the green parts in there. Orange parts are right there, going away. The red parts are over there. They look good, but I'm just going to leave them for another 5-10 minutes. How do the orange parts look? Kind of a funky color, I gotta say. Just due to the different way that I tumbled this. These are sort of more of a matte finish. The super shiny ones turn out really wicked in orange. Shiny, bright orange, but that's definitely orange. It's just kind of dull. Still looks awesome. So it looks full, but like I said, another 5-10 minutes. Can't get any more orange than orange, so I'm gonna let this color do its job and get as full as it can, as full dark as it can go. Let's check out these red ones, shall we? They've been in for 30 minutes or so. Oh yeah. How's that look? That looks like hotness right there. Okay. That's that. I want to see a dragon scales too. Alright, check this out. There we go. Is the exact same color, been dyed for the exact same time, and the Manix scales are much shinier because if I can get the light to shine on them, right? There we go. Because they haven't been tumbled very aggressively, whereas the dragon scales were tumbled for about 20 hours with a really rough media. Anyway, I don't know if it's really showing up on camera, but there's a definite color difference between the two. But they still look amazing. So now I gotta dump all these into the sealer. So in the sealant right now I've got all the parts except for the orange ones, which I'll do next. But first, here's my gray part. That's been sealing for over 20 minutes. So that's good enough. Rinse it off real quick. Notice I'm rinsing into the tank so that all the water drips down because see all the steam coming up. It's losing quite a bit of water, so this just helps replenish some of it. And then I just throw it into my rinse water tank, let it soak for a while, let it cool down. And I'm going to take out my green ones too, if I can find them. There's a green one. It's pretty green, yo. And there's one more in here somewhere. That one. Okay, got those out, and now I can get my orange ones in. Now these have been going for over 30 minutes as well, so I bet you they're good to go. Pretty sweet color. Again, because they're tumbled, they're not super bright. And that's just the way it is. Get the other one out. And then, so they go into the sealer, and then rinse water. And then after that, I pull them out, I dry them, and then I give them a rub down with WD-40, and then they're done. Now, so that's anodizing in a nutshell. Don't let me make it look too easy, because I've been doing this for over a year and I've worked it down to a science. I've figured out all my mistakes. I can do it repeatedly with perfect results every time. But it's taken me a lot of trial and error to get there. That's the majority of the process, though, that I just walked you through. So it just takes practice. It's a science, but it's a controllable science. So you just got to figure out all the variables and get everything to work well and have all the right tools that you need. And then it's doable. I mean, I'm in here in my garage at home. I went inside for lunch while I was anodizing. This whole process has been about, 5 hours maybe? 5.5 hours. So it is very doable, but not easy. It takes a lot of practice. There's the end result of today's work. You can see here, you can especially see the color difference between these two. They were dyed at the exact same time, but just because of the surface finish, because this is more of a rough, matte surface finish, it just doesn't shine as well. Toxic green, orange, red dragon scales. Again, you can see the color difference. There's that gray. Awesome. Red and red dragon. Pretty happy with that. So in a few days I'm going to do the same amount of scales, the other half of my batch. And most of those are going kind of black with red blood spatter. So I get to have all kinds of fun with that. And I'll do a quick video then. Now I'm not going to do a whole process like I just did. Just the spatter process and the finished result. So thanks for watching, guys. This was a long one, but a lot of work to do. So thanks for watching. Bye.